Creative Alliance Showcase. Welcome back. If you're watching us on TV, you'll probably see us on channel 17. Welcome.
Every Monday at 7 p.m.
Is it 6 or 7?
7.
Well, you guys would know better than us, wouldn't you? But if you're seeing us, and this is the first time seeing us, you're in for a treat, because we have shows on every single week at this time, whatever that may be. And there are various things with the Flint Arts Community. It's not just this show, but actually it includes videos of the art walk, for example.
Lots of fun. Those are funny.
Our open mic that we do at Good Beans Cafe every month, the Creative Collab Night, which is just a lot of fun. You know, we have an open canvas for painters to come on out and do a collaborative painting, the open mic, which will have poets, singers, jugglers, whatever you can imagine. We've probably had it there.
And then we also just have some variety, like different events come up occasionally. Like Voices is coming up, so you might see Voices on.
Voices,
if
yeah.
not right now, then soon.
And you know, we've had really cool festivals in Flint. We've had Drop Fest before, we've had Aerosol Audio, the Bluegrass Bazaar, which is coming up again this year. So really you're in for a treat. If you're watching us on that channel, you should check us out next Monday at this time, because I'm sure it's something really cool that you might not even know existed.
Okay.
And if you're watching us online, hello again. You're watching us on you're watching the uncut version on the Flint Underground channel. It's nice to have you back. There are hundreds at this point of other videos on our website here.
257 last time.
200. This is 258.
It's probably.
We're pretty close to 260 now. And the thing is, all of it's gold. So you can see people from the very first time. In fact, we just had Jennie, very famous person, blowing up, just moved out to California. The first time she performed, we have recorded on one of our Creative Collab nights several years ago.
Yeah.
Superstars like that from all over the community. We've either had on this show, we've had somebody.
Tune's pretty famous.
We had Tune, Alina Ron, who's pretty big in Detroit, Ann Arbor these days.
He's been on this show before.
We had him on this show not too long ago. We've had other bands that have morphed into different bands that have made it big, and you know, we just.
And Michael Moore, he keeps trying, but
we had Michael Moore on the show for a while. He's a good guy, but you know, it just wasn't working out for all of us. But the point is, we're here, you're here, and there's plenty more where this came from. So be sure to stay tuned for other episodes and look at some of our back stuff to see some cool videos. Now, what we are, this is the Flint Underground channel, but we represent the Creative Alliance. And if you're not familiar with the Creative Alliance, it's a grassroots arts organization that meets downtown Flint at Churchill's Bar and Grill every Wednesday at 7 o'clock. And those are the general meetings where we get some business done and talk about what it is a nonprofit does. But of course, that third Wednesday of the month, we take the meeting off and we go to Good Beans Cafe and just have a really fun time, a free event from 7 to 10 called Creative Collab Night. And that's again the open canvas, open mic event. So we hope to see you out there, feature events. I give you the spiel about what Creative Alliance is, but the point is Creative Alliance is what you do. Creative Alliance is any sort of art medium you can imagine, from designers, dancers, to visual artists, poets, just about anything creative, we're there for you. So check us out. We have a couple Facebook pages, we have a website, flintca.org, but the best way is just to come to a meeting, come to the open mic.
Sure. Also, I would like to say that Facebook page, the Greater Flint Creative Alliance, I try to post everything on there. So if you are an artist, you're looking for opportunities, that's a good place to look, just to keep up on what's going on in Flint as far as opportunities go, and then also events that are going on, not to mention all of our video stuff that we've already talked about.
So I'm really excited about today's show. We have some cool stuff. We have a local author, Kathleen Rollins, who's going to talk about her book series with its Heroes and Misfits. And it's just a really cool look into kind of speculative fiction from the past.
Very, very long.
A whole series, it's awesome, a whole series of books. And then we also have a special musical guest, the ModTie Etiquette. And we're going to be actually tuning into their practice space at the University of Michigan Flint and just see how the magic is made. So a really exciting show for you guys tonight. Before we get to that, before we get to events, which are, you know, always my favorite part of the show, we want to talk about this Flint Song Contest we've been having for about a year now.
Getting close to the end.
Yeah, so
Flint. Got some good songs out there. I think there's like 10 or 11 entries.
There's some good entries. Flint Song Contest is something CA is doing. We want to promote kind of music about our area and about our culture. So at our Creative Collab Nights, which I mentioned are the third Wednesday of the month at Good Beans Cafe, since last May, we give people an opportunity to play a song that they wrote incorporating Flint. These songs we're going to collect throughout the Collab Nights up until May of 2015, which is coming up pretty quick here. And then we're going to let you, the viewers, vote online.
Oh no, it's going to be in person.
Oh, you bet.
And in the June Art Walk, which would be the second Friday in June, during Art Walk, if you go to Churchill's from 6 until 10, it's what it ends is at 10 probably. We're going to have live voting, and I'm going to have snippets, each one of the songs, I'm going to have them playing, projected onto a screen in the back room at Churchill's, and then you can vote on which one that you like, and whoever wins gets a prize package of promotional things for their...
And it's a pretty cool prize package. Not only are you allowed to play your song, and maybe even others, at various events downtown, in Aerosol Audio, Junebrew, and I think Juneteenth. But you'll also be able to do a little interview, play your song on Kettering Radio, WKUF, as well as Tom Sumner's radio show.
5 hours of studio time too, so that you can get that.
You can record your next great album. So it's a really great opportunity. There's no cost to enter. You just got to come to our Creative Collab night, which is also free. Wednesdays, third Wednesday of the month at Good Needs Cafe. And let us know, hey, it's my Flint song. We'll record it for you. We'll do all the rest of the work, and you vote for yourself. You tell your friends and family to do the same. So before we get into all the cool stuff, we read some events. Coming up pretty quick here, Friday, April 3rd at 8 p.m. at the Flint Local 432, our home. There will be the Race to the Coffin Comedy Tour with Seth Addison and Cody LaRue. Seth and maybe even Cody have both been at our Creative Collab nights. They were pretty funny guys.
Yeah.
So if you want to see some of their comedy before you come to the show, you can check out some of our previous videos. Also that night at Aloha Gamers Lounge, there will be a show by Jay Bird Design, including a hand wringer and houndstooth. It'll be an art show too with photography, paintings and such, so pretty cool. The next day, April 4th, the Flint Town Players, which is I think Dan Garrick's new company, will be performing at Good Beans Cafe at 7 o'clock. It'll be called Cash Up Front K, and it should be pretty good. I think it's kind of like a variety show. That same night, if you're at the Machine Shop, there's a CD release for Fall of Us, also starting at 7. And then even if you're not in town, if you're in Detroit, the Tangent Gallery Spring Fling Art Music and Fusion Showcase will be happening at the Hastings Street Ballroom with the Tangent Gallery, 7 p.m., same day, Saturday the 4th.
Paulie probably has some art there too.
Yeah, I think Paulie Everett, our faithful camera guy, he's got some art down there. April 11th, which is the following week here at the Flint Public Library at 2 p.m. will be the Flint Horror Collective presents Beyond the Book, which is a cool kind of interactive horror literature session. And we've had Flint Horror Collective on the show before. They do a pretty cool annual festival. You guys should check it out. They're a lot of fun. April 13th, the Kersley Park Players will be auditioning at the FIM, the Flint Institute of Music, at 5 p.m. for the new season. They do some Shakespeare in the Park at Kersley Park every year. I think they also do stuff at Crossroads Village. Check that out. That's April 13th. April 18th, Burt Zombie Shamble at the Point Bar and Grill starts at 1 p.m. I'm pretty sure a bunch of drunk zombies are going to shamble down the street.
Do you think, is that a fundraiser for the zombie walk? Do you think we have a Flint?
I think it's probably separate, but you can never have too many zombie walks. Speaking of zombie walks, there's going to be an indoor, not really walk so much as stand around and enjoy art. April 18th, which is the same day, in Detroit, 8 p.m. at the Hastings Street Ballroom with the Tangent Gallery, Detroit Zombie Apocalypse 3. April 23rd, the Tom Sumner program will hit its 7th anniversary and have a Throwback Thursday twofer at the Captain's Quarters, which is a bar, I'm not sure where, but it sounds like a blast.
I think it's in Burton.
Captain's Quarters in Burton, 6 p.m. Check that out April 23rd. May 9th, Near Infinity at the Tangent Gallery. May 1st, of course, the Creative Alliance is doing their Beltane fundraiser event. That's going to be at Flintopia on the east side of Flint. It's going to be a ticket sale type event.
Right. Dinner and
entertainment, music through the night, masquerade party. You can make your own mask, you can buy it from us. And again, this is to fund the Creative Alliance. June 6th will be the first annual, although it will be the second, but it will be the first annual Ryan Bellows Memorial Bluegrass Bazaar. Ryan started with Bluegrass Bazaar last year. This is going to be continued in his honor. It'll be at Kersley Park, again, June 6th, starting at 11 a.m. It's an all-day event for free. And then, last but not least, there's a few events, but August 8th, don't forget, Flint Drop Fest, mark the calendar, starts at noon all day, downtown Flint. There'll be 3 stages, different types of techno music. Really just a great model, kind of that original Detroit techno scene where everything was free before they started charging an arm and a leg. But we're doing that in Flint, so come on out and check it out.
I think that the very first Creative Alliance show when we were a podcast, my guests were Steven Sachs and Jared
Sage,
and he talked about the Drop Fest.
He was talking about Bring It Fest, wasn't
Bring
he?
It Fest, maybe it was
It
Bring
was
It
before
Fest.
Drop Fest.
Well, anyway,
Yeah, a long time ago.
same
Down in the basement.
people, yeah.
Yeah, so lots of cool stuff coming up. And then, you know, now that we're filming at the Flint 432, you guys know that our costs have gone way, way down. We're no longer paying a fee for the space. It's just a fee to get our videos to you at home. And so we're taking underwriters, which is kind of the code word for commercials and sponsors, at only $10 each. And what that gets you is either one 60-second commercial or two 30-second commercials on the Creative Alliance shows. Not just this show, but the art walks, all the other stuff you guys see every Monday, as well as online. And yeah, we'll work with you. We just want to, you know, as we're promoting the local art scene, we want to be able to sustain the show. So $10, it's an easy donation to make, and it gets you a lot of press. So we actually have a few underwriters now. Let's go to them and thank them for their time.
Come visit the Good Beans Cafe at 328 North Grand Traverse, Flint, Michigan, in historic Carriage Town.
Yeah. All right. 1, 2, 1, 2. Smiling faces. Constantly supporting community and culture. And beyond. The Good Beans Cafe. Yeah. There we go.
Page's Bookstore is locally owned and located at 132 West 2nd Street in downtown Flint at Buckham Alley. It is a showcase for local authors and artists. Please visit Page's during the Second Friday Art Walk in downtown Flint.
And we're back, and don't forget, you too can be a supporter. It's just a $10 donation to your favorite grassroots organization. So we're back with local author Kathleen Rollins. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. It's wonderful to be here.
It's great to have you. So for people that don't know, let's just give them a little bit of your background. What brought you into authorship? Why are you now pursuing this book series?
I was an English teacher at Moench Community College for 35 years. And all that time, I helped other people write. But in the back of my mind, I wanted to write my own story. And I wanted to write something big and complicated, not a murder mystery, not a romance. I wanted an adventure story. And I'm also fascinated by early Americans, early archaeological finds in the Americas. So I use that as my subject.
And so you've got a series of books now. And I just want to do a quick overview of kind of the whole series. It's called Misfits and Heroes. I think it's the adventures of Misfits and Heroes, or Misfits and Heroes Adventures, right?
Right.
Tell us a little bit about that. What's the impetus for it?
I wanted to deal with explorers who were not heroic. They weren't, I don't know, super people. They were ordinary people.
Almost the accidental explorer.
Yes, yeah. They found themselves in extraordinary circumstances and they ran with it.
Very cool.
So that's what these people are. This is a group from West Africa.
And this is the first book.
This is the first book, yes. And these people actually are escaping intertribal warfare on the coast, and they get in boats thinking they'll go down the coast, but instead they're swept out into the open sea. And they have to learn really quickly how to handle that. And they wind up getting caught in a hurricane, which blows them a good way across the ocean, and they wind up in literally a brand new world.
And what time period are we talking about?
We're talking about 14,000 years ago.
Okay.
And initially people go, a friend of mine said, were people even talking back then? But it's not really that unusual. If you look at migration patterns in the Americas, there's a lot happening 14,000 years ago, and all over North and South and Central America. And just as a comparison, you know, the famous cave art, that's 35 to 40,000 years old.
Wow. So we're talking about the art of France, right?
Exactly, right. So 14,000 doesn't seem,
Right,
you know,
kick in the bucket.
Right. Okay, so that's the era. and these people are coming from West Africa. These people are coming from the South Pacific. And there's a completely different, I don't know, givens there. They're already navigators. They live in an island world, and they have to know how to navigate by the stars in order to survive. Because if you're out on a boat and you're out of sight of your island at night, you have to know how to get home. So there were people a long time ago who knew how to do that, and they became highly respected. They became the leaders. So these people are already very good seamen and navigators, and they purposely decide to find out what lies beyond the edge of the world. So that's a little bit different. And then they too wind up in the Americas. And in this one,
This is the newest book,
this is the
right?
newest one, we had members of these two groups meeting for the first time. Wildly different cultures meeting and forming something very new.
So this is one continuous story kind of told in pieces. Do you see it, how many books do you see this series kind of encompassing?
I'm working on the fourth one right now, and just to make life more complicated, this is a small group that comes from what's now northern Spain, the Basque country, and they too wind up in the mix. And they are, all of these have elements of spirit magic in them.
Okay, can you elaborate on that a little bit?
For a lot of the ancient peoples, there wasn't this sense that we have of here's reality, and it's in a box, and there's nothing beyond that. It was very fluid in terms of what was human, what was spirit, what was real, what was unreal.
Almost like an animist type.
Yeah, absolutely animist, yes. And animism was probably the most common form of religious belief. All things had a spirit, and in some the spirit was stronger. Some places concentrated spirit energy. Some people were capable of traversing this world and into another. They had special gifts. It's the sort of thing in Star Wars. It's the Force, you know.
Right.
And that's all through here. There's also a very clear sense of spirit ordering of the world, especially the new world. So they enter this new world, and the spirits still rule. And especially when they're new, a lot of strange things happen to them there. And then in this one, the jaguar that's on the cover is actually a spirit entity who is purposely pushing things to happen.
Very cool. And so you're kind of creating a mythology here, kind of a timeline, but it feels like there's some basis in reality, some basis in kind of classical history almost.
Oh, absolutely.
Can you talk about that a little bit? What informed this series?
Well, the inspiration really came from visiting the Olmec sites. The Olmec
I was going to say the Olmecs.
Yeah, that's, presumably the oldest civilization in the Americas. And, if you look at the giant heads that are famous there, I don't know how you could not see this as African, although lots of people claim there's nothing African here.
Right.
Because everyone came from the land bridge in Alaska. That's a different story. Anyway, so when I was in La Venta and I was seeing all these awesome giant heads, I also saw what looked very Asian. People with very Asian faces and features and so on. And so it just occurred to me, well, what made this first great civilization was a fusion of two very different civilizations that together provided the energy to birth this great new thing.
It's very cool. kind of idea to run with here.
So that's the overriding.
And so is
vision of
that
all
going to
this.
maybe be kind of the end of the series? Is creating this fusion culture?
Yes. Yes.
How many books do you envision?
I don't know.
Set
Well, it was supposed to be 3, and now it's going to be 4, and it might turn out to be longer.
I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. We all know when a creative impulse hits you, you just got to keep going.
Well, it's a very strange business. I mean, people say, "Oh, is it fun writing a book?"
It's fun to have a book written.
It's fun to have a book written. When everything is working well, it's just a blast.
Mm-hmm.
And when it isn't, it's awful. It's terrible.
Especially working so hard to create this kind of
Yes.
larger than life scene.
And you pour hours into it, and you realize this is terrible. I need to delete this whole thing, and then it's really not fun at all. But
How long does it take you to write one of these books? Because they're nice and lengthy. They're not short books.
these are the second and third took about 2 years each. The first one was considerably longer.
Right.
So I guess I'm learning something. I don't know. It's a very interesting business to be in. I think maybe all English teachers should try to write a book.
Why is that?
It makes you much humbler. And maybe much more understanding of the difficulties involved in trying to create something that's compelling and original.
It's a very interesting perspective. I haven't heard that before. Because you know a lot of teachers, I'm not accusing anyone now, but a lot of teachers have this very much, I know everything's
I know.
expert status, referring status.
And it's easy to get into that.
Yeah.
But, and a lot of teachers do write, but they write academic stuff. They write papers, they write proposals, or they do freelancing, and they write business stuff, or advertising, maybe a magazine article. I've done all those things. It's completely different to write a book. It's completely different. And people say to me, "Oh, I'd like to write a book." Well, do.
Right. Start today.
Yeah, start today.
So if I wanted to come see you do a reading or come purchase your book, where would I do that?
The books are at Page's Bookstore and some other local bookstores, one in Waterford, one in Fenton. They're also available online at Amazon and Barnes & Noble. I also have ebook versions of all of these if you have a Kindle or another e-reader.
Also on Amazon.
Also on Amazon, right? Periodically they're free.
Can't beat that.
Right?
Very cool. So just going forward, do you see, as an author, you can always throw stuff at your characters, make it more interesting and spice it up. Do you see kind of these other global events that have happened over time? Do you see kind of weaving those into the story?
Well, yes.
You started this process almost of kind of an indigenous colonization.
Yes. And what, of course, most people are familiar with the theory that everybody came across the land bridge from Asia, so everybody came across here during the Ice Age, and there was this miraculous open area between mile-high ice sheets, and they walked down there, and then they walked all the way down to South America. And increasingly, that's being seen as grossly oversimplified. Right now, the oldest site that the archaeologists will accept is here in Monteverde in Chile, and there are two dates. One is 14,800 years ago, and the other is 32,000 years old. If that's true, and they have accepted the 14,008, then this theory needs to be revised, and it's in every textbook. Kids go to school and they learn, oh, here we do, and North America first and all that. And it's what I'm trying to do in the books is show that just like later on, people came from many different directions, and that that makes more sense to me than the single route.
Right.
I don't even know how they would survive during the Ice Age if you had all these people trekking along here. But anyway, so yeah, that's one of the things definitely is I'm trying to show there's a diffusionist theory here at work, and that people came from many different places. I also really, really like the animist side of the stories. I've been recently researching the cave art in France and Spain, and there's so much we're just learning now when you compare that art with other finds in the area, finds in Germany, the lion-headed man, all this stuff. This is some of the earliest stuff that people did, and it shows a sophisticated sense. They understood that people could be more than people, that they could have another dimension. You could have a person with a lion head. Well, is this a shaman, you know, in a trance state that's now accessing the spirit world? I dealt a lot with a study in California of cave art, where there's a spirit master who keeps all the animals inside the cave, even animals that have died, but they're all alive inside the cave. The shaman then has to go find that spot, that opening to the cave, where the spirit master will let the animals out once again. And what the people have done there is put their handprints on the rock by the spot where this, you know, this spirit master would release these animals. Well, that's exactly what you're seeing in the cave art in France, right? So here you've got the cave, you've got all the handprints on the wall of the cave, as if you can go right through that dimension to the spirit world, and then you can access the riches that will be given to you.
And it's so interesting that, you know, outside of even all these people coming to the Americas, in their own kind of pockets of the world, they have such similar beliefs.
Absolutely.
And such similar, you know, art practices, for example.
Absolutely.
Do you see art playing a big role in the next book?
Yes, actually I did several in the first and third. So I used the sand drawings. I don't know if I have a picture of them here, but the
True teacher always brings her globe in her presentation.
I don't. Anyway, so what they did is this, the storyteller had great status, because that was entertainment. There's no TV or movies or cell phone.
Yeah, we still give our entertainers great status.
Exactly, right. So in this book, they draw a grid of dots in the sand. And then the storyteller drags his or her finger in a pattern through the dots as that person tells the story. Cannot stop, cannot speed up or slow down, but must finish that pattern at exactly the same moment that the story ends. And if you don't think it's hard, you should try it, because it's very hard. But I put a bunch of them in here. So you've got the grids and the stories and the figures and so on.
Well, we should just put an image right here on the screen for our viewers.
So that's what you're talking about right there?
Yeah, I have a very complicated one in here. Here, this one.
Can you see that with the camera? You might have to just get that.
Sure. But so the person is telling the story, starts off with all these dots, starts this algorithm, and then continues the story, and it's very complicated, and then finishes up at the same moment that the story's
And
finished.
it's really interesting, kind of this finished pattern. I don't know if this is something kind of your take on it, but it's almost kind of like that the geometric religious art that you see in Arab culture.
It is.
And it's very interesting.
And it's also done in the South Pacific, and this comes from West Africa. So you're seeing very similar patterns. Of course, you can say, well, people had, dirt and they could draw patterns, but
I think it's obviously, and you can see it, it's a little more complicated.
it's very complicated. Yes.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
And then, with fiction, we have this opportunity to kind of take sometimes grandiose or kind of strange ideas and really have fun and play with them. What would you say the most outlandish idea is that you incorporated into your work? Something that may or may not be true, but was really just something you wanted to work with.
The one I'm writing right now, and I'm really just starting, but the main character in the first section of the book is a man who has had previous lives, but he was refused by he was refused entrance into the afterlife. The ancestors sent him back because he was so bad that they wanted him to try it again. So now he's got all these memories and he can't, it's very confusing to him because he looks someplace and he has maybe half a dozen different memories. He sees a hunt going on, the hunters get a deer, and he thinks about his first hunt and he thinks, well, you know, I took a deer like that for my first hunt. And then he thinks, no, it was something much bigger, it had horns, and there were a lot of people, and we drove it over a cliff. And he thinks, no, I think it was a rabbit. I can remember how the fur felt. So the poor guy is just a mess. So that kind of thing is fun because I get to see how he handles.
And it's fun for a reader to kind of perceive things differently. You know, you're in that same moment where you're like, oh, he's talking about buffalo, but he doesn't know it, and I kind of get it.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, and for that reason, you can call the books fantasy. I hesitate to call them fantasy because people think of dragons.
Well, I would almost go so far as to say science fiction because you're basing a lot of this kind of in scientific fact, and you're running with it. And I, you know, science fiction is kind of a strange label. But the best science fiction is really just one step away of being something that we're going to have tomorrow. And so kind of these fictional understandings of things that are based in real life.
Yeah, this is more like, there's a lot of fact involved, a lot, because you can't change geography.
Right.
You know, the continents, the mountains,
right.
The oceans, although the shoreline is different. But it's more like speculative fiction, I guess.
That's a great way to do it. Yeah, you know, speculative fiction.
I do think that all this is possible, except maybe the magic part.
Anything's possible,
It
right?
seems to go with it. I don't know how you can talk about ancient stuff without talking about magic. They there was no difference to them between astronomy and astrology. You know, the stars were tremendously important. They followed the night sky.
Right.
They knew so much more about the night sky than we do.
Mm-hmm. Well, I want to say, culturally, I think we've only given up magic as an idea in the last 100 years.
I do too.
And we're still burning people at the stake not that long ago. So
yes, true.
I think it's just ingrained in being human, that desire to pursue something greater than yourself and to see it in everything.
Yes.
You know, whether that's religious iconography or just the tree in front of you, the rock.
And all of those blend, I think.
Right, exactly.
Yes,
Exactly.
There's no difference here between religion and magic. Everything is magic. Everything is spirit. Everything. There is no place you go that is not.
It's interesting to me, the more we kind of modernize our ideas on faith and religion, the more we get back to those kind of original ideas, that everything's connected and everything is, whether it's spiritually one or physically one. You know, science is telling us the same thing. Physically, my atoms are no different than the atoms of this couch and everything else.
Exactly.
You know, it's all perceive it.
And we are not an individual separated from the rest of the world. You know,
Right.
Even in our
There
own
is no
body, we
separation.
carry all these different microorganisms and so on. So yeah, I agree completely going back. But to go back to the stars for a minute, the more you read the ancient stuff, the more you come across the stars again and again and again. Not just for navigation. It's not just that, oh, I know that star's over my island, so I just have to follow that home. It's a sense of connection to the sky. The celestial life and your life are intricately sewn together.
That's very interesting because, you know, there are only celestial bodies in our modern world, the television or the computer screen, those things that kind of glow in the night.
Right.
You know.
Right. Well, there was a Northern Lights warning the other day, and if you get away from city lights, you have a much better chance of seeing anything in the night sky. But actually, just not far north of here, they did see them. So you have to get
It's
outside
out there.
and
You have
look.
to look.
You
You
know?
have to look. Exactly. We're pretty close to the planetarium, but not quite
It's
there.
not the same.
Yeah.
It's not the same.
And I just really briefly wanted to ask you about your experience in the Flint community.
I love Flint. Flint was so nice to me. It gave me a job. when I was a graduate student at Michigan State, and Mott Community College gave me a job, and I stayed there for 35 years. And so Flint has been great. And then Page's bookstore.
I love Tracy, she's great.
Yes, yeah, has welcomed authors, and you guys, and Flint Creative Alliance.
And do you have any readings coming up?
I don't. I don't think I have anything immediately coming up. But I do have a possibility at a bookstore in Waterford.
Okay, well, maybe we get some Flint people down there.
Okay.
Our camera person is trying to say something to us.
Do you have like a website or some way that people might be able to communicate with you if they were interested in the subject?
It's www.misfitsandheroes.com, one word. I also have a blog that's misfitsandheroes.wordpress.com.
So we can keep up.
The blog has sort of taken on a life of its own. I started it as just background for the stories, you know. And then I just started taking on all these ancient concepts that seem to have modern echoes. So it's found its way into lots of different areas.
It's great. I mean, again, I love these kinds of stories that really kind of modernize these ideas and can make these large connections that people wouldn't necessarily have.
Well, this stuff is all around you, though. I mean, we think we're so modern, but you know, you look at the caduceus and stuff. You know, the twin snakes with the wings on them. All of these symbols of eagles and snakes and lions and stars. I mean, they're ancient. These are ancient things.
We've always recognized these kind of archetypes through them.
Yes, and we are recycling them now. So I do a lot of that on the blog.
That's great. Well, be sure to check out her book at Page's Bookstore on Amazon.com. Kathleen, it's really a pleasure to have you on the show.
Thank you so much. I appreciate the opportunity.
It's great. All right, and up next we have the ModTie Etiquette, so check them out. Come back after this.
Page's Bookstore is locally owned and located at 132 West 2nd Street in downtown Flint at Buckham Alley. It is a showcase for local authors and artists. Please visit Page's during the Second Friday Art Walk in downtown Flint.
Welcome to the Lunch Studio, Flint's fresh alternative. We've been downtown Flint since 2001. When we first opened, there were only a couple places downtown where people could get an affordable and healthy lunch. Now there are a lot more choices for the growing downtown community, and that's a good thing.
At the Lunch Studio, we serve lunches made with the best ingredients at the best possible prices and always with a smile. All our soup and chili is made in-house daily. We have daily lunch specials and delicious breakfast sandwiches too. If you're in a hurry or on a short break, call ahead, dine in, or grab it and go. We offer many healthy and vegetarian options, and we can also accommodate most any special diet. We also offer half of 2 different sandwiches in case you just can't make up your mind.
We buy locally whenever possible, and we're very active in the community. We are proud and excited to be a part of the revitalization going on in downtown Flint, a place that we have always loved. Here at the Lunch Studio, we think lunch should be one of the highlights of your day.
So make sure you visit our sponsors, and remember, if you want to support our show, all you have to do is only $10 for 1 minute worth of commercial, and you can be on any of our shows, Creative Alliance Open Mic, or the Art Walk video, or the Creative Alliance Show. So, and now we're back with ModTie Etiquette. You can see this is a big band, so hopefully hopefully you've seen them or you will see them soon because they're great. And I think we should start out by just telling everybody's name and what instrument they play. You want to start out? I mean, you have a familiar face.
Well, I play with a lot of groups in the area. So hey, I'm Owen. I play bass.
Matt, and I play trumpet.
I'm Chelsea, and I'm the vocalist.
I'm Vince, and I play guitar. I am Nathan, and I play trumpet.
Tyler and I play saxophone.
Dez, keys.
Terrence, sit, drums. Sit.
And we're at the University of Michigan in the French Hall. And I have seen a lot of you play in other bands besides being on our show with different bands, and like the mariachi band. I mean, how many here played in the mariachi band? I know yeah, okay, yeah, you guys, and that's great too. It's they really got, it looks like you're getting a big following. I see more and more people coming to your shows. The one that you had at Churchill's that last time, there was a lot of people already starting to gather before we even finished our meeting. So
That's a party. It's a party band.
yeah, well, it's not. Oh, and you were there for the art walk at the lunch studio for a few times. Are you going to be doing that again? Or?
We're going to be doing it every art walk.
You're going to keep doing it?
Yeah, for the foreseeable future we'll be playing every art walk at the lunch studio at, we generally start at 6:30 and go to about 8:30.
Okay.
So you can catch us there.
And Desmond, I see you were in the mariachi band, but you were also in Sideways.
Yes. Sideways backwards, guys.
It was
Sidetrack
Silhouette. Yes.
Yeah.
Is that still a band? Are you guys still doing that, or that's different?
Potentially indefinite hiatus.
Okay.
I don't know. I mean, it's kind of a gray thing. I mean, we might do something later. We might just meet up one day. It's kind of in limbo right now, but.
Okay. Well, but you guys are all students here at the University of Michigan?
I am not.
You're not?
I am not. Not
Oh.
yet. Not yet, at least.
Not yet? Okay.
Not in the music department.
Okay.
I'm just not
Most of us that were in the music department together. I'm the only graduate, so I graduated with a music degree, and then Tyler and Terrence both go to ModTie.
Okay.
And then Vince was attending the music department. He was a minor when I met him here. So that's how most of us kind of know each other, just from the music scene around. Except Tyler and Terrence just kind of fell into the group. They were a little bit different.
Mine was way different.
Same here.
Okay. Well, let's. I don't know. You want to start by telling your stories? I mean, how did you get the name anyway? ModTie Etiquette. Where did that come from? Somebody.
I asked about this story because I didn't know.
Well, like mods are from England in the 60s. It's just a group of kids that would wear skinny ties.
Oh.
So kind of hashed the name ModTie, and then etiquette just seemed like really cool after ModTie. So we put it together.
Well, if you could have picked a word that was easier to spell, I have a problem with it. ModTie is pretty easy, so I just shortened it. ModTie. Okay, but anyway, that's a cool name. And how long have you guys been playing together as ModTie Etiquette?
Less than a year. Almost a year, I
It's
guess.
been like 7-8 months.
Yeah.
Almost a full term on a child. We would have had a baby for as long as we've been playing.
They're out there, man.
We're making this music baby happen.
But it sounds like you're all like seasoned musicians, you know, I mean, all of you are, and a lot of you play multiple instruments too. And so you all know what you all have a good idea of what you're doing, but you just haven't been together in this one band for that long, is what it is. Okay, well, it's sounding great though. Where you guys, where have you played and where are you playing?
Well, currently, last week we did another taping for the GMO show down in Troy. So that was like our last, gig. And we did a taping for that will also air on local channels around the state as well.
Wow.
And then next week we're going to be performing at Churchill's in downtown Flint.
Okay.
And we'll be doing that on Friday night. That show starts at 10. We'll be playing with a band from Detroit called Systematic.
Okay.
And then the next night we'll be playing at the Flint Local, which is always fun. We always like to play at the Flint Local. We have Old St. Tyrannus there.
Oh,
and
yeah.
It's going to be a fun show, Earl Grey. So that one's going to be fun. And then next month we have a gig on the 9th at Churchill's, and we have a gig June 13th for Relay for Life.
Great. Have you guys like put together a CD or anything yet?
We've done a small demo. The goal is to eventually be doing an actual EP, hopefully by the end of the summer. Right now, it's really just getting the funds up for it. With having 8 people in a band, you really have to split the money a lot.
Are you guys writing any of your own music yet? Or you,
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Because I've heard you sing. Who was it? I heard you sing and you sounded just like her.
If it's Aretha Franklin,
Aretha Franklin.
good lord.
Yeah. Because it
Oh,
was
somebody
somebody.
said just one like this.
Chelsea, please.
Yeah, you're gonna fill the whole room.
Added some soul to that.
What do you call? What kind of music would you call what you do? What do you call it?
Fun.
I say.
I was gonna say
It's a mixture. To me, as a drummer, I feel like we play all genres. So I feel like, we're not limited to what we can do. That's just me. So I'm just trying to get us to broad out.
I was gonna say I have a lot of
weddings. We can do church gigs.
I wouldn't go to church.
I've explained to a few people that I know. I just say Motown, soul, and funk because that's pretty much a lot of what we do.
Yeah, a lot of jazz fusion. I just say jazz fusion because I feel like that covers like the whole
Fusion.
When you have 8 people, you have 8 different perspectives on what it should be, and then we have Nate over here who kind of keeps the ship in a standard direction here, and kind of he does all of our arranging,
charter,
he
yeah.
does the composing for most of the stuff. We'll bring him an idea, and he goes, "No, that's." We didn't have Nate. I don't think we'd be where we're at right now.
We bring him the whiteboard and he adjusts it to something perfect.
Yeah.
Well, do you have any crazy stories to tell yet about ModTie? I mean, what's the funniest thing that's happened as a band?
I don't want to go into that.
You don't want to- Well, I won't tell a person what you're talking about.
There was the
Nobody will
pants
know.
party.
Where it happened.
I don't know if
He's
you
not
talked
there.
about our ritual that we did before shows.
Yeah. We go out and buy the filthiest air jet fuel vodka we can get good and sauced up so we can go on stage and not screw up.
But I'm the only one that never does
She
that.
won't do it.
There are those who are underage that don't do it.
Yeah, we don't let Ringer over here get involved. But Chelsea's too high class for us.
She makes a top shelf.
Yeah, she sits there with her
I need
top
my
shelf.
pinnacle, or I'm
Yeah.
sorry, my Gray Goose.
See, we're the ModTie. She's the
Philandering about with the Richies, drinking Jameson, lunch, sucking down what we can for $3.
Well, your crown royal
That is
black.
actually my ritual. I do 1 shot of Jameson over ice. That's my ritual before every gig. But I do that on my own, and I
Yeah.
sip it. They're outside drinking it in the parking lot.
Well, as long as nobody throws up on stage,
Oh,
I
yeah.
guess it probably works out.
I mean, nobody gets too drunk.
Yeah, okay.
No.
It's just to loosen everything up.
Just
Warm up the vocal cords.
Well, that's good. Well, there's nothing wrong with it. But you guys are all, you guys have been musicians for a long time. I know you got something interesting to talk about. But what about Sideways? I know I can tell a story about you guys back then. One little story, one small story that involved me almost getting kicked out of the Torch. But other than that, no, I'm interested.
That's a hard place to get kicked out.
Yeah,
That
no.
sounds like a more interesting story.
Yeah.
It involved a pitcher of beer.
Yeah, and I'm not thinking that somebody may not be 21 yet. I mean, it was like, oh, we got extra beer here. You want this pitcher? Because Nick and I wanted to leave it like part of a pitcher. And who was it? That was a different guy in your band. He's not.
Yeah, no, it was Joe.
Joe, okay. He
Yeah.
goes, oh yeah, sure. And so he's like drinking it really fast and stuff, and I'm thinking. And then the bartender comes over and he says, "Here's your ID" or whatever, and he took it away. And then he looked at us and gave us like a real mean look. Anyway,
we had a gig at the local that night. And we go over there and we're like, yeah, we almost got kicked out of the Torch.
You'll never believe this. Getting kids sauced up.
Anyway.
He goes to the Torch all the time now. So.
Oh, he does?
Yeah.
Oh, but he's 21 now?
Water under the bridge. Oh, yeah.
Okay, cool.
So it's water under the bridge at this point.
Yeah,
Figure it
well,
out.
it was fine for him. I mean, I'm the one that has to deal with it. But there's got to be something else. Come on, guys. Think of something.
Well,
What we
I do
got?
remember my first gig with the band.
Okay.
Oh God.
Well, I just remember the first gig, I think it was at Churchill's. I don't remember what the band was before us.
Oh man.
The band.
Team Lisa, I'm gonna tell you right now, you guys rock, and you guys are
they
banging.
did good. It was just me. I was just so nervous. I was pacing back and forth. I went to the bathroom like 3 or 4 times before. I mean, it was just, you know, the first gig with me was always, it was the funnest, but it was also the most nerve-wracking because I felt like I would have messed up and got fired on the spot.
You're out.
Because you can always be replaced. I don't care what nobody say. You can always be replaced.
Not that guy. Who is kind of the like the person that finds the gigs?
Yeah.
Okay, so you would be the firer too, wouldn't you? Maybe. Or
Yeah, she's the firer.
I would kick him out.
Yeah.
No, I couldn't do that to Terrence. He was a gem. Like Tyler kind of brought him. It was kind of cool because the way that most of how the band kind of formed was really interesting. Christine Bowen, who's another local musician and a great friend, actually recommended that I use Vince to help me write some tunes.
Okay.
I wanted to debut some original music before I moved out of state because I was originally going to move out of state.
That worked out for her.
So Vince basically brought a whole new element to my music. I was originally doing kind of like indie alternative, folk, fusion stuff too, and he's like, listen, I'm a blues player, you know, so he just totally rewrote my tunes. And he's like, well, we need a full band. And he's really the one that had like the vision for like the trumpets and like the big sound. I originally just wanted like a really good rhythm section. I originally just wanted a bass, guitar, drums, and keys. And that's really all I needed. But he's like, no, we need instruments, we need this, we need that. And so when he brought that along, he was like, listen, just give it a chance. So he invited, you know, Matt and Nate, who I knew. So I was like, oh, I know these guys. I went to school with them. I love them. They're great anyways. And then he couldn't really find a keys player, and I love Desmond. I know Desmond from Sidetrack Silhouette, and you know. And then I was like, I have to have Owen because Owen was in another band with me last year. And so these guys I played with, and when we all came together, we originally had Joe from Sidetrack Silhouette as our drummer at that time. He filled in. The band was just so good that, which was part of Vince's plan, I decided to stay. So I needed more instruments, right? Well, Tyler walks in, I work at Men's Warehouse. Tyler walked into Men's Warehouse and I just saw his email and it just said, Sax Man.
Yeah, TL the Jazz Man.
Yeah, and I said, do you play the saxophone? He was like, yeah. And I was like, do you play jazz? And he's like, yeah. I was like, where?
He just walked in off the street to buy a pair of pants.
I go in to rent a tie with a friend for homecoming.
Rent a tie.
Exactly, to rent a tie, and she asked me all these questions, and I was just going, what is with this? I go, did I just drop into happiness?
I was like, you have to be part of my band. I want to hear you play. And I don't know what it was, but I knew that this kid was good. Like, I just knew it, like, in my bones. Like, I bet that kid can play. And when he said he was part of the Mod Jazz band, I was like, oh, I know he can play. So I gave him all the information, and he came to our first band, or to his first band practice, and blew us all out of the water. We had, like, a set, like, that we were going to, like, test him on. We were going to have him do, like, a blues chart and sight read and all this stuff, and he played like one tune with us, and we're all like, you can say, yeah, you're good.
Great, pass the test.
He starts ripping the Benny Hill theme, and I just this is it right there. That's all we need.
And then we're all sitting around. We were like, now we just need a drummer because Joe was only able to play that one gig with us, and so we're like, man, where are we gonna find a drummer? We can't find a drummer. And Tyler's like, I got a drummer. Bring him to the next practice. And it's Terrence. And it's just like the way it fell together was really cool.
And that was like maybe 7 months ago?
Yeah. Well, Terrence and Tyler came in a little bit later.
I will say,
we came in about 5 months.
Yeah,
about 5 months.
We were really like, because we couldn't really
It was
I
like
could
our
actually
second
at the
time.
time, and could really commit, especially to our music, because our music's a little bit tougher, like to kind of pick up at first. We were really just perfecting the tunes until we found players. And then once we found players, we were able to, you know, slowly start getting gigs and stuff like that. But that took a while to find them too, because we had everybody else for 7 months. Yeah.
Well, I'm anxious to get into the music. Is there a place where people can see it online?
Yeah, we are on ReverbNation.com, and we're on Facebook. We're Facebook/ModTie Etiquette. We're also on Twitter, and we have a Bandcamp. We have a Gig Salad account, and we also have a YouTube account.
SoundCloud.
Or I'm sorry, SoundCloud as well.
That's the debut.
Yeah, and on SoundCloud and Reverb, you can actually hear the links of our demo. And then we'll also attach the link from the Flint Underground to all of those sites as well, so that you can see it there.
Okay, cool. Okay, so is there anything else you want to talk about or say, and then we can get into the music? Otherwise,
I just want to party, man.
Down to park?
Where's the buck?
I just want to thank you guys for coming.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
We really appreciate you guys coming out, you know, come and see us and everything, you know. We appreciate you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
putting up with all this.
Especially this guys.
Easy there, Tiger. I'm a gem.
saying I'm a gem. There's supposed to be some underlying something about that. Joke? No? Okay. I thought maybe there was a joke that I wasn't privy to. Okay. Anyway. So anything else? Anything else, guys?
What? No?
Just let's make some music.
Yeah, we're ready to play.
Okay, great. Let's do that.
Yeah.
And now, ModTie Etiquette. Kathleen Rollins, our author that was on earlier, and Polly, our cameraman. Thanks to the local for letting us use their building for the first part of the show. And now I hear the ModTie Etiquette is going to be playing a premiere original song next, and hopefully you'll play us out. And I just want to say peace out, and thanks a lot. Did you turn it off?
No.
Okay, well you could if you wanted, because I don't know, is it on?